Okay, so let's talk about the next section. Word choices can create disadvantages in others. So far, I have shared some of the dynamics that can signal unconsciously belonging or exclusion, right? So now I want to share the distinct types of harm that can come from our word choices, right? What are the potential harms? The first is emotional, cognitive, and even financial burden of folks pay, right? The second is disadvantages, like including like career advancement that can result from our own word choices. So let's go back to the word genius, right? 천재, to get a sense of disadvantages, right? So when I use the term disadvantages, I mean missing out on opportunity or reward. So if we use the word genius, it can limit our ability to see people, right? You may not use words like genius, but in your word, words like intellectual giants, incredible caretaker, or technical genius, when you use words that have a strong archetypes, like you may be giving an advantages to those who aligned with the archetype and disadvantages to those who do not. So those who do not often have present more evidence to their confidence, even though they're doing the same work. So your words like may have strong feminine or masculine archetype, right? So consider the word list that I've shown you before. So if a meaningful job requires a driven intellectual leader, you are selecting primarily individualistic plays, which are stereotypically masculine, and ignoring traces that are communal, such as supportive, friendly orientation. Likely, both are required for success, right? But by focusing on individualistic traits, you are likely creating an implicit advantages to those who are identified as men, right? In addition to disadvantages, words can also cause people to experience burden. So this is a cause for one's well-being. So take the word professional, right? What's professional in Korean, by the way? 전문적인, yeah. Right? When you think of 전문적인, do you think of something in your mind right now? So what you might not realize is a term like professional can reinforce exclusionary archetypes that can relate burden for people who do not fit the archetype, right? So the scholar Dr. Sedali Melaku calls this an inclusion tax. This is a really interesting term. So, or the financial, emotional, and cognitive tax a person must pay to fit in, right? So by telling someone they're not acting professional, you may instead be telling a non-binary person to conform to a gender binary, right? Or by saying a person doesn't look professional, that may be implying that a person or of color needs to be straightening their hair to be like white people's hair. So one of the researchers named Erica Diego Contreras worked with students and people to understand their burden. So here's a quote by that scholar who shared with me her research study they use in their work. So this is a quote from a Beyonce, who is a Mexican American lesbian non-binary employee. That they said, my job requires justifying the need for LGBT education, convincing them it's in their best interest to be educated about these issues, so they share it with their department. So to be effective, having illicit empathy, right? So I share stories about students who struggle and what being marginalized feel like. So I proved a certain level of trauma it can and it has happened before. And faculty and staff and university can see why having education about these issues would help. And I relive my trauma in this session, and even students do it to make the point. You have to be really explicit about the harm it does. So here's something I took away from their words. So if someone has convinced me to learn about their harm in order to change, then I haven't been a good ally, right? In all honesty, there have been times when I haven't been proactive and instead had to get pushed into allyship. So I hope by sharing these terms, I can help you find your way to allyship with anybody who does not feel a sense of belonging. And if you join me, surround yourself with folks who give you encouragement to lean into allyship and so on and so forth. So here's a takeaway, right? Here's a lesson. So know any words you may use with a strong archetype or that reinforced binary. So think about the ways you can use a combination of words that is more inclusive. So try substituting a phrase like collaborator who connect people to create new ideas for the term genius, right?